What's up everyone, Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids. Thanks as always for checking out our videos. Today we're looking at this knife from CRKT. This is the CRKT Saker, and this is one of their bushcraft knives. This is made by Abe Elias, and I saw this originally at SHOT Show 2015. Then I connected with Ben at Blade Show 2015, and he was able to pass one of these on for me to check out and review. Cool looking knife, very simple, very sleek design, not a whole lot of fanfare to it, but having held it, and we'll show you what it looks like in use a little bit, I think you're going to be impressed with what you're getting here. So let me go through some of the specs. Your end-to-end length, 9.19 inches. Your weight is 5.3 ounces. Your blade length, 4.53 inches. The thickness is 0.14 inches. It's 1075 high carbon steel. Your Rockwell hardness is between 50 and 55. As you can see, it has a Scandi grind with a drop point, and it is a plain edge, no serrations whatsoever. Let me move this out of the way real quick and show you what the sheath looks like. And this is kind of an interesting thing. So the sheath is leather, very nicely made, very durable, very sturdy. It feels almost like kind of plastic because it's so rigid, which is good. That'll break in after a little bit, but right now I'm enjoying it a lot. Flip to the back side here. You can see big hefty loop, so you can run your belt through there. Pretty much any size belt is going to work there. You also get this little kind of bushcraft tool, and when I talked to Ben at SHOT Show, he was basically saying the idea behind this was that just, you know, it's a way to add a little something extra that you can have an extra tool so you don't have to abuse your knife in certain ways. So this is a little bit serrated here, so you can maybe get some shavings if you wanted to. There's a hole there. I've run this cord through it and attached it, as you can see, to the sheath. But if you take the cordage out, now you got a hole. You could straighten arrow shafts, things like that. You could also use this as a striker for a ferro rod. Lots of other ways you could certainly use it if you're creative, but that comes with the Saker as well. Here's what the knife looks like in the sheath. Very secure, and you'll see as I pull it out here, I mean, there's a lot of handle. The handle's all the way up to here, basically inside the sheath, so it's not like, you know, the edge of the blade is right here. It sits nice and deep. There's a little hole right there on the bottom, so if you do get water in there, it can drain out a little bit more easily. And I did mention it feels like plastic. It's not. It is full leather. There's no plastic liner. There's nothing whatsoever plastic about it. It's just so sturdy and firm that it does feel almost like it's got kind of a plasticky feel. You do have a hole there if you want to put a lanyard on the knife. And then let me just show you here. It is a full tang knife, so from the end all the way to the tip. I did use it. Here's a little bit scraped up, just testing out the ferro rod. And let me bring the knife up close to the camera so you can get a nice look at it from end to end. Here's the knife from end to end. See, it says Saker there. And come back the other way here. CRKT. And just to look at the handle, no huge palm swell, a little bit of a swell, so it's going to drop in there and then swell out a little bit and then back a little bit. Toward the end you can feel a little bit of just the way it's contoured, but it's very comfortable in hand. I found it super comfortable to hold, no hot spots. And this is just the in-studio portion, so we're going to take it out and use it, test it out, but at this point, very impressed with it. Just like the overall look, very, very simple, but kind of classic designs for a bushcraft knife. Here's a quick comparison to some other bushcraft / survival knives. So on the bottom we have the Schrade SCHF 36, and this is considered a bushcraft knife for some people. I would call this a survival knife. It's just big and hefty. It's kind of a BK, got the BK2 flavor to it from K-Bar. So that for me is a survival knife, but some people might call it a bushcraft knife. Same with the Rat 5. This is definitely more inclined toward being a survival knife than a bushcraft knife. But you do have the Spyderco Bushcrafter UK, and then we have a more companion, and then the Saker up here on the top. So just as a quick size comparison, Saker is going to be bigger than the companion. It's going to be almost the exact same size as the Bushcrafter, and then the Rat 5 and the SCHF 36 are just going to be notably bigger and thicker as well. Just to show you real quick that the spine of the Saker is steep enough to get a spark off a ferro rod. Just show you this real quick. So there's that, and then also to show you that this little bushcraft tool that they've included, you can do that as well. I'm not going to use this serrated edge, but I'll use this little curved edge and then the back edge as well. So there's that, and then here's the curved edge. So that definitely works as well. Here in my studio, I've got this big log, and I often take pictures on top of it. You can see it's pierced here. I use it for tip strength tests on different knives. I just want to show you that this little bushcraft tool can work in a variety of different ways. So I'm going to use the serrated edge first and just kind of shave off some of the edge of this this log. You know, so if I had to get some fine dust, if I wanted to get a fire going or something like that, you could certainly do that. This edge here, it's got a little bit of a bevel. See if I can get that on camera. You can see that, a little bit of a bevel there. So you can use that to scrape like this. Also get some fine dust off a log like this perhaps. And so you can see I've got a little bit there. So those are just two ways that you want to use this little tool, and it does come with this paracord as well. So if you untie this knot, you probably have, I don't know, maybe 16 inches. So it's not huge, but another resource you could have in addition to the Saker knife. Here's a quick look at the sheath attached to my belt, and you can see once again that the Saker is going to run nice and deep in that sheath. And as is always the case, you know, between your two loops, this back loop and this front loop, it's going to move, but that's not really a problem for me. And then taking the knife out is very easy to do, and then replace it in like so. Now I'll do a little bit of batoning with this in a couple moments, but this, again, just because of the size of the knife and also because it's really a bushcraft knife and less of a survival knife, I'm going to not do a ton of batoning. Instead, I'm going to kind of work on the beaver chew method to get through this piece of semi-dried out maple. So let's just show you what that looks like here. Just start shaving away some of this, these different layers here, work my way around. One of the things that Abe Elias said as far as the design was that it's supposed to be very comfortable in hand for extended use. So you shouldn't be getting any hot spots or anything like that. And I can tell you, as soon as I grab it, I don't really feel any hot spots. On a lot of knives, there's a couple spots that feel a little bit tender. But this one is very well rounded. I don't feel anything that's uncomfortable as soon as I grab it. Extended use, time will tell basically. But so there's the. Just break through this real quick. So you can see that worked. Just using that kind of beaver chew method with the Saker Bushcrafter, and did the job. Now it's a little bit still has a little bit of green in it that I wouldn't normally use for a feather strip. Let's just do some shaving and show you what that looks like here. Wow, that's nice. As soon as I start, I can tell. Yep. Yeah, that's really nice. When I do this, I try to use different portions of the blade. Like I'm using the lower portion now, and then maybe toward the middle a little bit, and even toward the upper portion of the blade as well, just to see how it feels to do cutting at different angles, using the different portions of the blade, different locations on the blade. Yeah, that's really nice. A nice thin profile for the blade allows it to do this work really effectively, despite the fact that this isn't extremely dry wood. Let me get rid of that mosquito on my leg. Let me zoom the camera in so you can see what this work looks like. So that's what that looks like, and you can see just really effective at cutting there. Very easy to do. Didn't take a lot of pressure from me. Some knives, if they're thicker, it takes a lot more work to get these fine little shavings, but this did the job very easily, very effectively. I just want to show you a few more things here. This is a little pile of just shavings that I got with the Saker, and very easy to do. One of the key things I found is because of the length of the blade, you don't just have to run it basically like this straight down. You can kind of run it like this. You know, if you have a tiny little blade, you don't have that much length to run the knife when you're cutting like a piece of wood like this. But with this, if you really run it, you know, the full length of the blade, you're gonna get, it's just gonna make the whole process a bit easier as opposed to just going like this. So there's a little pile of the shavings. And then the other thing I'll show you is that I did notch this little piece of wood here. Let me get this section off real quick. I notched this piece of wood just to show that if you were working on a trap, if you were working on some sort of snare, and maybe you're cutting the notch in for your fireboard on a bow drill, you could certainly do that quite easily with this. So, you know, just cutting in like so, and then even at points just pushing in and popping, pushing in and popping, and we got that nice notch, you know, I'd say almost about halfway through, and that was easy work. We're gonna do a little batoning here, and I couldn't find the piece I usually put on the ground, a big, you know, log, and a big storm is rolling in. So I'm just gonna go probably about 90% of the way through, and then I'll break these in half. And these are just some pieces of wood I found out in the backyard. Again, I wouldn't baton huge pieces of wood with this. I don't think it's built for that, but just to show you that it can do some of this heavier work. Now in this one you can see a little bit the challenge here is that, you know, because this, I got the blade a little bit far out, I'm starting to hit the handle. So, you know, you want to have a big hefty blade and you got to set it up in the right location. I was a little bit too far forward in trying to baton that one. Here's a quick look at the wood I batoned. I would say the biggest piece was probably about 1 3/4 to 2 inches across, so it wasn't anything huge, but definitely did it quite well. It actually cut the maple the most effectively, or split the maple the most effectively. So yeah, it's definitely going to work for some smaller tasks. Again, I wouldn't be batoning huge logs with it. I just don't think it's designed for that. But yeah, it did the job on some of these smaller pieces of wood. Let me wrap up now and talk about just some final thoughts here when it comes to the CRKT Saker Bushcraft knife. First thing I'll tell you is that I actually like the tip a lot. Not that a lot of bushcraft knives have like a severely rounded tip, but this one is very pointy. So off camera I did a lot of piercing work just to kind of, you know, start maybe if you were going to do a bow drill and you want to get a little divot started, you can use this tip quite effectively. So I like that. I like the fact that it's got an aggressive tip. The second thing is I like this deep sheath. Once again, just to show you. So that rides nice and deep inside the sheath. And a bushcraft knife is not something you're going to need to deploy at lightning quick speeds, you know. So I just think to myself, as long as the sheath is going to hold the knife effectively, that's good. And it's kind of a classic looking sheath, that nice heavy leather. And actually I was looking around the CRKT website, they actually describe it as like a heavy duty or you know, a very rugged leather, which that was my experience with it as well. The little bushcraft tool, I like this as well. They throw it in. You know, if you lose this, you're not going to be like, oh, now I lost the bushcraft tool, I can't do anything in the woods. But it's a nice little addition, and I don't think it's going to, you know, up the overall price of the knife, the sheath, and this little bushcraft tool. So if you lose it, no big deal, but if you have it, you can do a couple things with it, and then the additional paracord. You could certainly also take this paracord off and just run it through there and use it as a lanyard. Let me move these out of the way, and then just bring this into the center. The one thing I will mention about this knife is that it's a classic bushcraft looking knife. And so if you want something with bells and whistles, something that's really different, then this probably isn't the one for you. But if you want something that kind of has that classic look and you've liked product from CRKT before, this could be a good one for you to check out. The other thing I want to mention is that the Saker by itself might not be enough for you when it comes to tools in your bushcrafting setup or your wilderness survival setup. So maybe you want to add something else like the mah-chete. So this is from Liang CRKT. It's a collaboration with them. Very cool blade and just different. Got a little bit more of this kind of rustic look. Got the wooden handle and then this this hammered steel up here. Then you have the Woods Chogan T-Hawk. There also is the Kanji T-Hawk. The Chogan comes with a basically a hammer on the back, and the Kanji comes with a spike. Kanji has a little bit longer of a blade, if I remember correctly. But I've really liked this tomahawk a lot. And you know, if you had maybe these two or these two combined, or if you want to have all three, it gives you a lot of options when you get out there into the woods. So think about adding not just, you know, maybe the Saker to your setup, but maybe you want to add that and then another tool as well. My parting words here on the CRKT Saker Bushcraft Knife is that it's easy to use, and that's a big thing for me when it comes to bushcraft knife. I don't want something that's very complicated. I want something that's sleek, simple, basic, and this one definitely fits the design, and it works well. You know, you saw some of the work I did with it out there on video, and I did some additional work as well, and it was fun to use. It was easy to use, comfortable, and you know, as always, we'll give you the long-term thoughts on it as far as if it holds up, if there's any issues with it. But at this point, it's a nice knife, and I'm glad that CRKT kind of branched out into something a little bit different than some of their other knives when they went with this. And I think at this point I would give it a thumbs up and say it's a win for CRKT. If you want to step outside of, you know, maybe some of the other bushcraft knives out there and you want to try something from CRKT, this is one that's definitely worth checking out. Thanks as always for checking out the videos here on Everyday Tactical Vids. Please subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram and Tumblr as well. Take care.